Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call this continuation meeting back to order. For those of you who hadn't been here, we'd like to welcome you, of course. We've been going through the budget for some time now. Jack presented it to us, and then we've been having a budget workshop, which we started, when was that, guys? Monday night, last night?
A year ago.
Monday. And we had several things we need to talk about tonight. We invited some of the fire departments here, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Tate. He's our liaison to the fire departments, and we've invited some of you here to speak about your budget. So welcome. Appreciate what you folks do in our county. We couldn't have the fire protection we have without our volunteer firemen. So let that be said, how much we appreciate what you do, and I think I speak for the whole board on that. So with that, Commissioner Tate.
Again, we appreciate y'all for being here. We appreciate y'all, what all you do. We know we're talking about dollar bills tonight, where we get those dollar bills from, and how you're going to spend them. And I believe the five departments that asked for an increase, we asked for the chiefs or representative to be here to discuss that with us, why you're seeking an increase, what your reasoning is, and we kind of want to talk about your numbers with you. I guess as elected officials here, we feel a duty to protect the taxpayers' dollars and the best duty that we can, and we intend to do that. So we're not trying to be offensive. We know for the dollar bill that you're a lot better deal than if we had to pay fire departments for full-time members across the board. So we're not trying to nitpick you. We're trying to be pleasant, but at the same time, we just want to make sure we're seeing eye to eye on things and make sure we're being fair to y'all, make sure we're being fair to taxpayers, that type of thing. Is that correct, Mr.
Dead on.
So I believe most of the chiefs, or everybody's here as a veteran. I think most of them understand that too.
So I guess if you just want to, we'll call them forward one by one.
Let's do that.
However you want to work this on.
Okay.
I'll go with it.
Okay, you go ahead.
We got any volunteers? If not, I'll just run with it.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I don't mind.
This is, those y'all know, this is James Manley, fondly referred to as Popcorn.
We know it's popcorn.
Yeah.
Popcorn is my chief in the house.
Do y'all have an old copy last year's?
We do. We have a total. What we have last year is your budget last year, your request this year. That probably would help.
It's on the,
Well, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Just tell them before the chief starts, just for my benefit, can we go over this, Jimmy, would it bother you to go over this just for a second, make sure I know what I'm looking at?
Go ahead.
Any questions anybody has for clarification, let's do that now.
Popcorn, what we're looking at is.
And what we're looking at is this the sheet right here, the total sheet that we have in front of us. Now the way, you just want to go through it, how the request was, Lori, and did you put this together, Lori?
Well, what are you talking about?
Look.
I did not, no.
Who did the sheet?
Is that what you did, Jimmy? Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy did. Okay. We just want to make sure, Jim, we're all looking at the same thing. So, beginning on the left, evaluation is evaluation of the property. Now, the 1213 request is what the department asked for. So, if that's .30 tax rate for date request, so would that mean Franklin is not asking for a rate increase?
That's right. That's
Right,
correct.
so you move on down to Highlands. Highlands is
They're
asking for
.01.
.01, and they was at .09.
Now, you're not asking for a penny.
They're asking for a tenth of a cent.
Tenth of a cent.
Tenth of a cent.
Which is $1 on every 100,000.
So the amount collected between the two would be the difference between the 347, 368, and the 339.8. Am I reading this chart right?
That's correct.
Yes.
About roughly a 10%.
10%. The tenth of a penny. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that one that I had it right. Okay, go ahead.
All right. I'd like to begin with, we just went to ISO rating, and we went to a 4/5. So see, right off the bat, we're saving the taxpayer money on their insurance, anywhere from $200, $300 per year, according to their carrier, of course. So we just thought it would be a good time to asked for a little extra money because of everything going up, fuel and everything. So actually, we're saving the money, but we're just asking for a little of it back.
Just to add on that popcorn, I made 2 phone calls today. They both said that on the average due the drop from a 9 to a 5, we would save in those homeowners roughly 10% of their property insurance.
So I don't know.
Is that the best rate? And that's the best rate in the county, I know.
Yeah, right now.
It might be the best rate in the state for a little, I don't know.
Well,
Where's that stack up? I don't know no fives.
We missed in town by 3.5, 3 points, 3.5 points we missed going to a 3 in the city. So.
That's great.
And see, we're kind of looking at too, we want to, in a year's time, maybe make a satellite department, a substation out towards Short Off it would help the Wildcat and Cold Sage Club.
I visited one of my customers yesterday, Wildcat, and they asked me to mention that too.
Well, see, I'm
Do
talking,
they live in Jackson County or Macon County though? That's what you got.
most of
They
them,
live in Macon.
yeah, most of them.
They live in Macon.
And, see, I'm talking with George now about it, and I'm trying to get him to really work with me to own it, you know, for money wise too, but also let them donate extra, because it'd be benefiting them more than benefiting us. So do I need to go down through here where we've increased and why?
Show them on your folder this page here under the Highlands. And that was last year's and this year's, sort of side by side, so you take a peek at it, which sort of resembles our.
Yeah, I mean, I kinda went down through there and, looked up where we went up, you know, like the salaries.
Yeah. I think just we need to go through the whole thing, just the ones that have changed.
Okay, the ones we went up on was like salary, wages and everything, it was 6,900. Like health insurance for the full-time, it went up 6,000. And building repair that we're gonna do we need to redo our floors and everything is 2,000. I'm sorry, that's just building itself, I'm sorry. And vehicle fuel, as everybody knows, it is coming down a little bit, but we only went up 1,000 on there. Then our workman's comm insurance went up a little bit to 500. That's what we marked it up. Then other expenses, miscellaneous, you know, breakdowns, whatever, you know, 3,000. And then here's building improvement, we're gonna go through and have to redo our floors and paint them and everything, it's 20,000. And, equipment, vehicle purchases, we're trying to put back, you know, for a future truck, 31,000. And then, well, that's for equipment and vehicle purchase that we've already done. And the other one's reserved for 30,000, which we're looking for more equipment. You know, you always don't have enough. You know, there's always something else out there. And then unemployment insurance, we went up 1,100, so. Everybody still with me? Yep. Right. Fire calls, we make payments to our guys, so, you know, we can get better turnout. It just helps in a little small reimbursement. We went to 5,000 up on it.
Tell me what that is, but I don't understand that.
Per call, we get $15 per call. That's what it comes down to.
That's what it
Yeah.
Everybody that
Each-
shows up gets $15.
Yes, sir. Which is, you know, nothing.
If that call is 10:22, you still get $15?
If it's longer than 5 minutes or more, they can get it. If not, no.
No.
So what, and we've got 26 members at this time, so that can add up. So that's just per call. That's not, we don't even do medical. Medical, we don't do, just fire calls and rescues. So we don't even count the medicals, which is probably another 200. And then propane, of course, if you got any propane, $1,000. And uniforms, turnout gear, 6,000. Loan payment, 102,000. And restore of the old FWD, the 53 FWD, we have 10,000.
How much money you got in the bank?
Wouldn't ask that think right now we have 161, I believe.
I'm going to ask this, just out of curiosity, so Commissioner Bell and I were discussing it last night. You get a little bit from Jackson County, is that correct?
We get, yes, we get 6,000. Jackson County, we get 6,500 at this
And
point.
that comes from the protection of the end of Bowery Road,
No,
Osage Club, or what's
no,
that?
Osage Club, Highlands Falls, and Wildcat.
Or does that come through Jackson County, or does that come
We do the homeowners. They pay the country club, the country club pays
coming
us.
from Jackson County?
But we have got a new print off and looking at that on the different of what we can do there different. On maybe going to the Jackson County and seeing if we can do, they can do a tax to them at our rate and then send it to us. So we are trying to talk to Jackson County.
On page 2 there, what is that Jackson County Fire Protection, 22,000, and you carried over 22,000 at this budget?
Where are you at?
I'm on page 2.
Okay.
It's the last page of yours,
Yeah.
in my book.
Yeah, it is fine. That's just what we carry over, hoping, we're gonna get it again. See what I'm saying? That's we usually get, we're trying to get 20,000 from them now, is what we're trying to work up, as I was telling, we're talking to the county now.
The homeowners can pay that themselves, the county.
Right.
So where's the 6,000?
Where's the what? The 6,000 is in that.
That's county and homeowner. Oh,
So, so that 22,241 is from the 6,000 is in there?
Yes.
And then what you got from the homeowner?
Right.
And that combined?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So, we don't feel like, it's we're basically asking for 34,300 more. That's what the increase should come out to be. We don't feel like that's really an unreal ask in the sense we, had to buy all the new equipment for the ISO testing and everything. We just don't feel like that's an outrageous raise.
and Jim, if I'm reading that right, that is 1/10 of 1/6.
I just have one question. Do you have a feel for, because we're 10 months in to this year, do you have a feel for what your expenditures would be prorated out to the end of the year, how that stacks up to what you got last year? In other words, last year you got, I can get to it here in the easy one, $339,800. Can you give me a feel for how much of that is spent?
As to this point,
Yeah. How are we doing this year with the last budget? That's what
right. See, now, with this other payment that's due now, this 102,000, see, we'll have 61,000 left over from last year's budget.
Okay.
See, this is kind of, what it does is it does come back to it. This is not a zero out, budget.
So what you got now, doesn't, you've got accounts payable,
Right.
You've got a payment payable in it.
Yes.
Okay. But I'm not trying to be difficult, fellas. I swear I'm not. But I do want these, so I kind of got. You got the payments for this year should be in this year's budget,
The next payment's not due until July, yes.
right? But that'll be in next year's budget. So, is that an annual payment or is it a semi-annual payment?
Semi-annual.
Okay, so that semi-annual payment then appears, there should have been two of those payments included in this budget.
We made one last month, and this one will be next month. or next-
Okay.
102 will be next.
But you've made two this year,
Mhm.
okay? And
Wait.
so your carryover budget is, you're not making three next year.
No, we're
Still
making
just
two.
making two. Okay,
51,000.
so even with that, given that you're making those two, you're still 61 under what you budgeted.
because you never know what's gonna happen.
Oh.
We've been pretty lucky.
Not arguing that.
Would.
Not arguing that, Bob, not
Our
arguing
truck
that.
or-
Been there, done that, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
okay,
Always fun about it.
that's what it's called. Yes. I've heard that.
So that's basically all I have to present, and just would ask to please consider it.
So, I'm sure Highlands works just like Franklin or Clovis, Savior County. When an ambulance call comes in, your first responders are paged out.
Yes.
And they're paged out as the ambulance is paged out.
Yes.
So when you look down here and you see C1, that's what that is. You probably don't have that. You had 169 of those responses. That had to be what that is.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
see, right, see, we don't pay even for that, just, I don't really know how the county works out, I think it's determined on the quality of the call, how an emergency it is. We don't roll on every one of them. It's as needed on the medical.
The thing about Highlands, fellas, in a real bad winter, Jimmy can attest to, or Bob can attest to, the winter months is, that's where the calls, if these calls are down this year, it's because we've had a mild winter. You have a tough winter in Highlands, and you'll see the calls go way up. Is that right or
Yeah,
wrong?
that's right, true. Yeah, it's been way down, I can tell you that from record.
Yeah, now, go in.
Gentlemen, any other questions on Highlands? Jim, you have anything else to add?
No, on that, one of those out there for curiosity, just a quick revision there, $20 cost $822 for the call.
222 per call.
And you have how many firemen?
26 to this time.
Well, just me talking to a lot of the people.
We're trying to get 30, but, you know, it's hard to get anybody to spend all this time because we're requiring so much more.
We're gonna ask, I'm gonna ask this question to everybody in here. What concerns me is, not that any of these fellows is getting old, but, you got how many years in popcorn?
32.
And see, one of these days, you know, what do you see in the generations following you? That's what concerns me about the younger folks coming on. Do you have a junior fireman brother, some doing, some don't?
You know, kids are interested in it. I think it's gonna come down to pay the fire department, that's what I think, but that's strictly opinion. I think in 5 to 6 years, we're looking at, going to have to get 24-hour service in the fire department. But that's a matter of opinion. Just because, you know, guys are going to colleges or young boys are leaving, or they just don't wanna mess with them. Don't wanna give the time like all of us give. I mean, we're out there all the time.
Training hours has increased, I know, I forget Jimmy can say how many hours, but I know your training has increased. State did that, I think.
I mean, it's something all the time anymore. I can see a big difference, you know, I've been there since '80. So I can see a big difference, and I'm getting too old to do all these schools. I'm one of the older guys.
Well, that's a real concern. I mean,
Yeah.
the county should be aware of that. I mean, it could be a real,
And then we're, you know, rescue and heavy rescue, also medium rescue. You know, takes time and money. We've been pretty lucky on that. Everybody's getting smarter in the fall.
but you still have this son about when you know it now.
Do you have anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Very much.
I thank you very much too.
We have no particular order. Can we, you guys here? Yeah. Come on, man. How you doing, sir?
All right, you,
Good.
Everybody knows this gentleman?
I'm Wayne Wood, I'm fire chief, Kelly, assistant chief, Dustin Pendergrass, president of the board, Joe Luke.
Joe, welcome.
Destin, who's?
Pendergrass.
Anybody else have trouble sending in?
Got you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got,
Yes, sir.
got here, I only made one copy of this because it's
So this is your,
That's spent years.
this is your running.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
You need copies, maybe?
That's quite a,
It's pretty thick.
it's quite large.
I don't think so. We've got a total of that in here, so, yeah.
Sir?
That's our bank statement.
You've been burning some Xerox on
And we worry about it.
So your total balance is going to get 27,000.
Yeah, I'll explain that to you again. I got you one more. I hear it was last year's. That's the last year.
Sir. I think if you'll be able for comparison, what you can handy, I think that will compare to the document we have in the booklet. Is that right?
It's about the same.
Let's go. Yeah, it's laid out the same way.
Okay. All right. Yes, you have a copy of 12, 13.
We do.
Okay. Now this, you got here, goes along with what I gave you, on the bill.
Okay.
This is the breakdown as of right back. All the papers out there. All right. And like I said, I've done a copy of the 12 and everything, but I won't have to give Dustin to have to do part of my speaking because I'm losing the voice. I think he's gonna know that we're gonna add to. Okay. What, Mr. Bill, do you want to discuss this? I can statement first.
No, you got, you
Wherever you want to start.
Yeah, go ahead here with this. Said, right here, the Delhi Volunteer Fire and Rescue Incorporated Board of Directors voted unanimously to pursue the increase in the budget for the 2012-13 budget year. Is requesting 15% to the existing budget of 261,179.46 which would equal 300,356.38. By doing this, our budget can be increased in all our utilities accounts, electric, propane, phone, along with fuel account. Over the last several years, with the steady increase in electrical, propane, and fuel costs, we considered they've had to monitor and adjust these accounts. Our board of directors has voted to pursue the purchase of 23 to 26 new air packs in order to replace outdated equipment, provide better for efficient packs for our firefighters. And let me say this when we talk about those packs. 2013, which is coming up in our next fiscal year, is the year that on the air packs and stuff, they're gonna change the mandates on. We've got about 15 packs that will have to go to the wayside within that time frame. We got, said that the 25-hour packs that's talking about, those hour packs are running like, $5,163.28 apiece, totaling $129,082. That's what they were running. So that's one thing we're looking for in the future. We got, all right, I've got this one up here. This paper right here. This one right here. This one I'm gonna go off of. I know we got our budget and everything. Reason for doing that, I'm going down the line item and kind of explain some of this to you. Go down, see what we've received so far this year. At the very top, we anticipated 261. We received 268. Okay. So we, first line item that we're looking at, if it's got a little minus by it, means that's still in that account. Okay. So it's the way that equipment program prints this thing out. We fell short on the bigger items that you talk about is line item 6241, which is insurance, building, and vehicle. It's $6,149 over budget this year. That's the big one. And the other line item that I discussed with the insurance company would be 6242, which is going to be workers' comp. I think every department's going to have that in every department in the county. And workers' comp went up this last year. Down here on another line item, 6310, vehicle maintenance. I'm $6,734.12 over budget. Our next budget, and we have to change this around, 6330 vehicle fuel. I've already added $2,000 to that. But besides what we had in the budget for last year, I think if you look, our budget for last year was like 15, was 10,000, like $10,000 last year. What we figured in fuel, even with adding that to it, I'm still $816.32 in the whole on it. Firefighter equipment maintenance, which is 64, line item 6430. Firefighter equipment maintenance, now this is the testing of the ladders, the air packs, all the things that we have to go through and we test every year. The department tests the trucks ourselves because that saves us a few $1,000s right there. Some of those things, you know, we test our own hose, we test the fire truck. But that right there, that budget is $2,010.22. Those jaws of life that we have a guy that comes in every year and checks those things out for us. Another line item, 6740, firefighter. It's $5,424.13 over budget. We hadn't, with the board, I hadn't tried to balance this out with what we've got in here yet. We wasn't going to do that till our next meeting, when it's June 5th. Okay. What I was doing is going ahead and point out these things that we were starting to run over on, and I pointed out the board's also looking at putting in a third, maybe putting in a third station, a little satellite station.
What would it be?
Well, we were discussing in the last board meeting, we hadn't said anything, but it would be probably Mason Branch Road, which will help all out of school. So we'd be close. And we discussed that and talked to the guy that had the land. We're talking about doing that. We're talking about redoing our rating. See, we're at a 7, 9S right now. We're gonna try to do a rating at least get to a 6. Because we don't have hydrants or nothing like that, so there's no way that we would ever, probably ever get to a 5. You guys, you wanna go over this right here, this bank statement?
I don't think we can do that together, that's
How
fine.
many substations? Just two?
We got two right now.
One station, one substation. How many full-time firemen do you have?
Well, what we've got right now, we've got 40 on the roster. We got 12 juniors. One paid fireman, yeah, one paid.
We know that 6170 over there, so we got a minus in front of that at $25 over budget.
No, I've still got 25 in there, but I've got a bunch of repairs and waiting on. See, some of them like that one, they I'm waiting. If it's got a minus, it's still in there. But you were talking about
6170.
6170. Yeah,
So I see it's 6124 right there at substation.
yeah, that's what I'm over on it. I'm over 109 on it. But the improvements is what we do to improve the building itself, like lighting that has to be done and outside maintenance and stuff, the mowing of it and those kind of things.
If I read this right, 6740. So you're firefighter, that means you're over
Yeah,
budget there.
yeah,
And that,
purchasing gear for a fireman, you know, like turn up bunker gear now, all that. Dustin, you got a quote on something just the other day, didn't you, on some gear? That much was it?
Around $2,600, $2,700.
Okay, $2,700 per man
Let's see, what percentage is that?
or person.
1456.
I'm looking at the second page.
What do you need to know?
When I'm just trying to figure out, I was following you, I was with you, the minuses were good, the pluses were bad. I gotta
Yeah.
keep it simple, I'm just a dope
Yeah.
mook, I don't know much. So I figure minuses are good, and pluses are bad.
Yeah.
Till I get to the back page.
Yeah.
Then it looks like I've got
You do.
minus 20,000, which feels good to me,
It is, that's.
but I always thought equity was a good thing, and all of a sudden my equity is now reducing my good stuff. I'm confused.
Yeah, that's the way the Quicken program did it. It automatically figures in the equity in that program. So you just have to,
So what's-
don't worry about the equity.
So forget about that, so
Yeah.
right now,
Back
good,
up.
I'll forget that, that
Back
makes
up.
it easy.
Total liability.
There's what I want, okay, that's what
I
I want to
got,
know.
should
Okay.
have
Okay.
$63.06 in the bank.
Got it, okay. Got it.
that was your bank, so total liabilities and equity, the 7,457 is,
Yeah,
It's not a good number. We don't have to worry about
yeah, that,
We don't have to go below the 20.
yeah, you don't have to go below 20.
Hello. So let me make sure that I've got a grip on this. Basically what this here is telling me, check the front here. Yeah, basically what this is telling me is that of what I budgeted last year and based on what I really received,
Mhm.
minus what I really spent up until now,
Yeah,
I've spent it all but $20,000.
that's right.
Okay.
That's, you got it.
All right.
You got it.
That's what I wanted to know.
And I've got to go till,
Oh, yeah, you gotta get all the way to July. Yeah, I understand that. You're not done yet.
Oh.
You got a couple
and
months to go.
the other side of the coin, Mr. Governor, I want to tell you about too, is whenever you start looking in here with that 731 CD on this bank statement, says Macon Bank, it says 38,938.40. That money right there is what we got in the CD. That's gonna have to carry us, and you know we don't collect tax money between July the 1st and November before you start getting any checks. And that's what we have to.
I understand. We battle the same.
Oh, yeah.
We battle the same
They
thing.
might
I
have
know
that.
exactly what you're
bottom line
saying.
is you're pretty close.
Yeah, you
We're,
are.
we're close.
Wait, on that, just a suggestion, I'm looking at this same sheet.
Yeah.
On right there. I don't know what bank you got that mortgage loan with. I guess that's for the substation.
Yeah.
That's 6.5. I would,
Shop that.
I'd shop that. It might not be a bad time to shop all in.
Well, we did, and we looked at local government credit union. They're looking at it as we speak. They were talking to, I just talked to them today.
If you could knock, if you get that down to, if you get that one down to 4.5 from 6.5,
Yeah.
you'd knock 9 years off the payment.
Oh, yeah.
We're combining all the trucks
Yeah, we
and
will.
all the fire stations, whole thing.
And you
So
can,
it's all good.
Yeah, under one rate.
depending on who you talk, you can get probably 4.25, maybe 4.5.
We talked, I talked with some of the other guys, and we talked about that tremendous amount of money for those air packs. You know, like what did I say, $120,000. We're talking about air packs. We talked about leasing them. Well, we figured out in the lease, we can lease those things for 5 years. They keep them up. At the end of 5 years, turn around, they have to replace us with new packs and continue right on.
Is that lease like a car? If you put a scratch on it or if you damage them, you buy it?
Well, this is where our insurance covers any damage to that. So that's where we're covered. But our insurance is going up, like you say, those things go up. But that's, you know, we were looking at that, but we're looking at about roughly close to 30,000, 25 to 30,000 in there for the year to do that. What we looked at in here, I know that we go back to the county sheet you guys that gave us, and I know that millage rate that they put down there was 4.094. I don't know if that'll be quite that high, would be quite that high if it was set at the 300.
But your total request is 300,356.
Yeah.
That is right.
That's right. But we're not very far. What are we right now? 268.
268.
Yeah, we're almost.
And see, this is showing, this is still showing you 261, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it fair, and I meant to ask you this too,
Yeah.
is it fair that, are you pretty well hitting tax receipts about, not saying what you're asking for, but in the past, are they coming about the same every year? Are you looking at about the same or higher than what we projected? You're not coming in under ever?
No, you're not coming under, usually
You're
you
not
get.
a lot over.
No, you
you're not a
usually
lot,
get
but
more.
But if you take that bottom line estimate, you can be pretty confident that that's gonna come in. Is that a fair statement? I'm just asking because I've only got one fire department to experience it on. Ours has always come in a couple thousand over, usually by the time it all gets
Yeah,
in.
you
I just
can-
wanna make sure
yeah.
that was your experience.
Yeah,
too.
you can usually guarantee on what you get, you're gonna get it.
Right, okay, fair enough. That-
Have in the past.
Is that-
I mean, times are getting
Can
harder.
we see the same thing, because I know we do?
It is.
Okay.
It's always done that ever since.
Okay, fair enough.
Been there.
At least it's nice to know where you're starting from.
Well,
Whether it's
then
enough
yes.
or not's another issue, but at least you know where you're starting.
I mean, I know y'all have community meetings a lot, and we're down there a lot.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think the community will perceive the tax hike? Because it is a tax hike to the community.
Well, I know that I've talked with the community and I told them, you know,
What's your proposal?
for what we propose with these air packs and when you got 40 guys, you got to put them all in gear. You know, you can't, when it comes to safety of those guys, that, you know, that's the bottom line, is their safety. So, I've done discussed this with them, and I said it's gonna show up, you know. We're gonna have to pay a little more tax, but we're going, in order to progress down the road, that's where we're going.
Somebody that can cipher better than me, what would that be on the $250,000 tax? How much tax is it?
Increase is $42.
$42?
30 bucks.
30 bucks.
30 bucks.
But like the other things, too outrageous, a price, you know, what we're trying to do here.
I never asked them, I mean, that commission, that two of them, how was their response, how was their response back to it?
Well, you know, I didn't have no negative points to it. You know, when we met with the community, and Joe was there with me, and
We haven't had any negative yet.
nobody complained about it. You know, I had.
They usually say that for us.
Well, I know, one in particular.
That's why you guys get the big bucks.
But he was at the same meeting when I discussed this. But, we talked with them about all that, and they, you know, they understand that the cost of everything keeps going up and up and up. You know, there's, and fire, when you get into fire service, it's like all the rest of these departments. When we go out there and buy something now, it's a lot more than we figured it might be when we first looked at it. They're always going up. And trucks is getting way out of price.
If this is approved, Wayne, and goes ahead, and your best judgment looking back over the history, do you think this rate increase will hold you for the next 5 years?
That's possible. We could possibly do it for 5 years. We would have to stop back, sit back and look at some things for his expansion, you know.
Ain't gonna get no cheaper.
No.
And what's your time on maybe I missed it, on the equipment? How long you set that up for?
Which
Your previous equipment?
Some of the stuff we've got, we had when we started in 91, you know.
Now, the newer stuff is gonna go on a 5-year program, lease purchase.
Yeah.
We're gonna lease purchase forever.
Yeah,
That's what
We're always gonna
Yeah.
have new, there is never gonna be old stuff again.
yeah.
So is it a dollar buyout or zero at the end of the lease? What happens at the end of the lease?
They're gonna completely replace it.
Let's
So
start-
it's basically zeroes out.
Yes.
Yeah, roll the program over again and start again.
And you saw that in hard gold letters and saying that.
Well, they wasn't in black and white, but this is what the representatives.
That's what you
all
want, if you're replacing equipment, that's what you want to make
Yeah.
sure that it's a zero, that you don't have a balance.
So, yeah.
Right.
Does anybody else in here lease anything? Anybody lease?
Some trucks are leased on,
The truck?
some trucks. We've got one through lease.
No equipment or nothing.
There's no final payment at the end.
And that sounds almost too good to be true, and I hope it is.
It's something new in this area, but it's
Yeah,
not new
this
to
is
the
something
fire.
he's working on. But like I say, our insurance policy takes care of any damages that would occur to it, to replace it or whatever. So that part of it, we wouldn't be paying out. And coming back and asking you guys for some more money to pay for this tore up stuff, you know.
Understood. Thank you, Wayne. I don't have anything else. Jimmy, you?
Just give me those numbers. I like to keep it, just so Mike can give me minutes mostly. You've got 40, how many you got on the roster?
I've got 40 firemen, and I got 12 juniors.
Well, that's wonderful.
So
I've
the
got-
12 is not including the 40. That's
Right.
additions.
I've got 2 applications I have to hold because I was gonna cut it off at 40. I don't wanna go beyond 40 because the more you put on, the bigger this workman's comp's gonna get. And I have to watch that in the budget too, you know. I hate to turn anybody down if they're willing to volunteer to do this. Because we all know what it's like, I mean.
Well, I think that's an indication that you do have some interest, and I'm sure Pop's would like to have something.
I'll take some of them.
I'm gonna farm some of that to him.
Thank you, Wayne, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. No particular order, Mountain Valley. I know you guys are sitting up front here. I'd like to welcome you. Wayne, this is what we got in our book here, that's 12-13, but,
This is what I said, this is what I
okay. Gotcha.
This is the red one.
Yeah, it's one of your book, you know.
I'll get into this, I don't want to bear. Yeah, that's just Kelly, that's just their big stack of stuff that they gave me. I can take it to them on Monday night.
There's a reason for our increase this year.
No big deal. I know the way.
Are all your other line items fairly flat?
Yeah, it's pretty much flat right there.
So this would be pretty much for the 1,000-gallon pump.
Yeah.
1971, can't you keep that running a little bit longer?
We tried for 15 years to keep that thing running.
The STP.
I'm tired of working on it.
So they start putting money in.
When they get that, what is it done? If the mover's not supposed to, you put duct tape, the don't move is supposed to.
Well, you got a little bit of duct tape on it too, so.
Is it a Ford or a Chevy?
And it's a Ford.
And gentlemen, I was out there the other day, met with these guys, we had to get a meeting, and we also ate some ramps while we were out there. But they, like I say, they definitely do have a need. I had a chance to look at their trucks, their equipment. Theirs is pretty simple, but there's really nothing else in it except the truck.
This truck, you know, I threw it in there a year, I just talked to a salesman, actually last Thursday. He said you can look at a 10 to 15% increase every year, no increment. We're just requesting a little bit more to help pay for the new truck.
Have you found a truck?
Yes, we're actually holding the truck for us.
Is it a new truck? What?
It's a brand new truck, yeah, it's 2012. It's international.
It's 1,000 gallons.
It's 2,000 gallons.
What did
You're not
quote you on that?
replacing, you're actually stepping up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to step up.
What did they quote you on that one?
188.5.
Tax tag and kind of.
That's it.
And is that a lease or?
No, that's buying it outright. That's a 15-year purchase. We'll be paying on it for 15 years.
Well, that's about as long as you want to go,
Yeah.
you know, as you know, when it's over.
I read it.
Well, yeah, gentlemen, if you look, it's, well, it's not a half cent.
No, it's not.
No, it's not a half cent.
It's a tenth.
It's two tenths. Yeah.
This one first.
76 to 77.
1/10.
It's the same thing Howard says.
1/10.
But the valuation
Because you
is
don't have $4 billion worth of valuation.
No, be nice if we did, though.
But Wayne, I have no question. I think that's fair and reasonable. That's,
So the new, make sure we understand now that the new pumper, that's 188.5. You'll term that out probably over what? Dwayne, what do you have in mind?
15 years is what
15
we're
years.
looking at. Just to keep the payment down so we can.
And they've improved these pumpers. I read a little bit about that for wherever your filling station, wherever what creek ever you go to or pond. Compared to that 71, this is a whole lot different in it.
Oh, yes, it is.
The filtering systems, and I read something about that.
Yeah.
Is this one new trucks, one person load?
No, I think that's about 2 people load it, so
And how many firemen you got?
we're running 31 right now.
Then junior.
We got 8 users right now.
You still there, Steve?
No.
He can't retire, he's got help.
he's still there. He was to the barbecue the other day.
Shut up.
Well, I know that one time when y'all had a little problem keeping the number of firemen that you needed. So you think that's stabilized now? And
We've been able to stabilize it. It's holding good right now. A couple of our users are gonna be arranged now to put them.
tell me what that is. Just tell me what age you use.
It's 18 minutes. 18.
40,000 gallons of water in?
Full cheese man,
How much?
West
$45 miles an hour.
It will do 40.
Yeah.
How
We done brought
they figure your
that.
response time, they figured it.
They're supposed to
They
ball
figured
and
it's
stop.
They brought it.
Coming
down,
coming
coming
down.
down.
It's already gonna get fun.
They actually brought the truck for us to test, to haul water to see what it was.
And it done good?
Yeah,
We've already drove the truck.
Yeah, it's a demo truck, but it's new.
You loaded up the water
Yes,
at
sir.
the top of the mountain?
Yeah. 45 miles an hour. We'll take off with the Echo Valley.
Like Dwayne mentioned, there's some things in the works to lower their rating up there, and I think we'll take it up a different time because it's a different issue, but there's some discussions about the coverage area,
Mhm.
that they're actually closer. And in my, I admit, I haven't seen on mine, but there's property that's right behind their fire station, it's the Franklin District.
Right.
I'm trying to process how that works. But we can do something to help them get their rating better, it's going to be better for them and the community, so I think this might be,
And there's also been.
This might be a step in that.
I'm sure there's an issue there somewhere, but I think it's good to look
You know,
at.
that all
I'm just asking
about
the
where the line
I don't
comes from
know.
Cali and from where y'all line go. and
Right,
that.
yeah.
And if all these lot sales, if they turn into houses one day, Dwayne, that might be an interesting
They
conversation.
sold 27 the other day.
27.
27 lots in there.
I understand, I'm saying,
It's starting to
Pick
be.
back up and
we need to leave
So
some.
what rating would you be shooting for?
We need to talk.
That, we're talking about what,
Okay.
the
Well, we
district
talked
thing,
about
that's for another day, I think, but
All right.
my opinion, this is part of the picture.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty important.
Anything from you, anything got by question for us, Dwayne?
No,
I got one little dumb question on this about your problems on the old fire truck. Who's trading that meeting on these or just throw them out there?
we're actually excited about this thing down here on 28.
Sell it to
So,
the
Do like, when we started building new schools, get rid of those old trailers.
Mhm.
When people come, oh, kids go to school in trailers, see, those things are fine. We had to pay people $100 to come pick them up.
We had one old truck that we tried to sell. Oh, we finally took it down to there.
I went to school.
What we're probably looking at, if we had this truck for us, that'd be one of us taking on this year.
For the metal.
So that would probably got it down the truck. We can talk about what they're doing down there. Right there, just to have a spare here. Just leave it around another truck.
It's so different because you've got so much equipment and what we talking about, what Ron talking about, we talked about how for many years David and them would take boxes off the ambulances and put it on a new frame.
Correct. New chassis.
New chassis, and if you do that with a pumper truck, or what have you, you got a lot of stuff that goes all the way back to the cab, where an ambulance is supposed to conceal in that box.
It's just not what's wrong with the pump on this truck, it's the engine, the brakes, it's got no gasoline engine in it too, so it just burns real cool. Yeah, it's old. Those old days.
I started breaking down about
Yeah.
41 too. Been going downhill ever since.
Thank you.
Dwayne, that's all we had. Thank you very much.
I know what he's up against. I got
I got one time.
We got,
threatening to quit one time. Let's get out of driving Ford down to buy a Chevrolet car.
Let's see.
West Macon, Motto. West Macon. I'm just going up the sheet here.
Right now, with all these old veterans that call, I guess, the young gals are his partner.
That's all right.
Good to see you. Good to see
I
you.
appreciate it. I do apologize for this that I'm about to hand you, because it doesn't really show exactly. My treasurer printed off our reports the annual year as opposed to the fiscal year. So it could be a little bit off.
We got,
It's very easy to read, I appreciate it. There's it's the income expense as well as the profit and loss for the past 2 budget years. And I'm not as good as standing up here and talking, so I've got a little bit to read.
go right ahead, so it's fine.
Again, I'm Josh Randall, Chief of West Macon County Commissioners. I've been chief now for 1.5 years. So I am new to this. This is my second budget due, and the first time that I personally have asked for a increase. Our last chief was Robert Randall. He served in that position for the past 21 years. Robert taught me a lot of things over the past few years, kind of grooming me, I guess you could say, regarding the past history of the department and his vision of the department for the future. Both Robert and I have the same ideas for the future development and improvements that the department needs. West Macon Fire Department has operated on the same budget for the past, we believe, 3 years, with those 3 years having the same millage rates we currently have, in the 0.56. When preparing for the upcoming budget, Finance Committee consisting of myself and 4 other department members, mostly seasoned veterans in service, felt that the time was right for an increase in our budget. We looked at line items of our budget and saw areas that needed an increase. Of those reasons, the line items needed an increase, as you can see on that front page. It's for insurance, building maintenance, utilities, truck maintenance, and vehicles. Reasons for the increase due to the addition of our satellite station that we just completed back in, I believe, November. No, we was hoping to have it in November. We got done, what, in February? I believe is when we actually got our CO on it. That station, if y'all don't know, is a 3-bay, 40-60 building that we put just on this side of Mill Creek Road. That is going to dramatically decrease our response times to the White Road area and the Mill Creek area. And we believe that when it comes time for our ISO rating inspection, that we should be able to do very well on that by helping that area of our district.
How far do you come down 28? Where's your district come to?
We go from the county line at Clay County to the industrial park. And then out.
Where you turn up the industrial park road?
Yeah.
So do you catch a school?
The school is actually in our physical district, but it's annexed. Franklin's actually got it.
Okay. And Red Haven?
Yeah, Franklin's got Red Haven. They have all the industry stuff that's on the industrial park. Then we pick it back up on the right hand side of the road once you get past Caterpillar. They go back to the right. So we've added that satellite station. We've recently purchased a utility pickup truck that I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute while we got that. An increase in cost of utilities, of course, gas, electrics going up, and fuel. The West Macon Fire and Rescue Board of Directors have always been very fiscally responsible with taxpayers' money, I believe. I feel this increase is necessary for both the present operations and for future developments and improvements. We found out this month that we actually applied for the Department of Insurance grant, and for $60,000. We actually went just slightly under that. We're in the process of getting new SCBA air packs as well. The ones that we currently have are outdated, and 10 to 12 of them, I don't know the exact number right now, will go out within the next year or two, or 15 years of lifespans. So we put in for that. We have been granted that grant, and we are putting in for 12 of those. We actually have those 12 ordered. Our share of that money is $27,800 that we will have to pay. Of course, we'll have to pay the full amount up front, and then who knows, 6 months down the road, we might see a check in the mail from the state.
They're pretty good.
No, yeah.
We always get out of the time. It always shows up. It's just a little late.
And then once we've got that 12, we need 24, so we've got to have 12 more. That it's up to us, and us like Callie, we're looking at that lease to purchase program. However, the one that we're looking into is a lease to purchase. We're leasing them from them for 5 years, and then at the end of that, we can pay it off with no penalty, and those packs are ours. I've never heard of them. We don't know the exact details of that right now, but that I know of, there's no way that we'll just give those packs back to them and get brand new ones. It'll be at the end of that term, it'll be ours. And that, out of 12 packs, that's about $120,000 we're gonna have to come up with. put all the money in. Of course, we're going to finance that and not put that all up front. We're also in the process of searching for a 12-foot enclosed trailer. It's kind of what we're using that utility pickup truck for. That's going to be used for equipment deployment as well as a mobile command station. West Macon serves the most foot miles of the Appalachian Trail of any department in the county. And we run quite a few calls in that area on the Appalachian Trail. And this command center is essential for proper and more effective operation during searches and medical recovery in the remote areas. Another future need is a tanker. We've got one just like Mount Valley that's getting old. And in the past 2 years, it has barely passed pump testing. So we're looking toward future as well as... What's that?
What model is it?
It's a 79.
Let's get rid of that, forward two.
Ford?
It's been a good truck, but the truck runs good. The truck is...
You can't be power pumper?
No. Unfortunately. It would cost us too much money to repair
For what
that
it's worth.
For what it's worth. So, well, I mean, we've discussed what we would request if we sold it. We'd probably take somebody's hand off for about $5,000 for the truck.
Some of these out of line counties, you take this Wayne County, they jerk your arm off.
Right. Another thing for in the future we're looking at is turnout gear. The last set of turnout gear that has been purchased by West Macon was about 5 years ago. And that was just for about 3 people that had just come on. We've been working out of old gear. Some of the old gear is still in fine shape, but a lot of the old gear is getting in bad shape and needs to be replaced. With that stuff, about $2,000 to $2,500 for head to toe. We've got 32 members and 13 juniors, and you start adding the numbers up, that's a lot of money.
And say those numbers again, Joe.
They're from head to toe, helmet to boot.
How many firemen you
Oh,
got?
32. We're 32 volunteers, 12 or 13 juniors, and 1 paid member. And with this being said, in my opinion, the Finance Committee and the Board of Directors of West Macon at the time was right to ask for this 0.4% increase from 0.056 to 0.06, sorry. And that's putting it around the $10,000 increase. And you see the line items on that first sheet with the insurance, by the time you put a truck and a new station, new building. We've asked for $1,000 there. Building maintenance, now that we've got 2 buildings, it obviously going to cost us a little bit more, so we doubled that to 4,000. Utilities, we bumped that by $3,000. Truck maintenance by $2,000. And vehicle fuel up to $2,000 more.
How much you got in the bank, John?
Right now, we have in the bank, as of today, $201,450. That's 74 cents.
Can I show them what environment?
Yes,
My instance is, I don't know. How are you board of directors selected?
voting department.
By the department or do you votes?
By the department, the community member that's there.
Let me ask a quick question. I'm trying to follow the saga of the 5 pages here, and I understand.
Right.
I'm with you. The substation, did that cost $122,000? How much did it total?
Roughly.
Okay, so that debit there is a one-shot deal.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on page 1 of
Let's-
income and expense by category. Go down to what I'm trying to get at is there's the substation. The part that and so that's paid for.
The substation is paid.
So obviously the tax base did a pretty good job because you're able to write the check for that,
Right.
not have to finance it.
Right.
Okay.
What I believe, and I'm trying to remember how long that I was on the board before I became chief. I'm thinking 4 years. So I've been on the board roughly 4.5, 5 years,
Okay.
I would say. The board of directors has been so conscious of looking forward and not just looking at this year, what we've got to do to survive. And we have made savings and cuts and kind of shrunk things down to try to save enough.
Sure.
Because we seen that this substation was
That's the
needed.
right way to do it.
And,
That's the right way to do it.
and now with myself coming into this and looking forward and looking at the inventory of stuff that we have, we've missed some things as far as personal protective equipment that we may have needed 2 or 3 years ago that we cut a little bit on, that we're still okay on, but that we're gonna need.
I'm gonna ask you a question you may not know the answer to because you're not the treasurer and I know, right? If you ask me this at Vernon Town, I won't be able to tell you. But I'm looking on page 1 there where it says 1/1/2010 through 12/31, and it says deposit. That deposit is $300,982. It doesn't say that that's taxes, is it?
I can't imagine it is.
Okay.
Looking.
I don't know. That's
Right.
not that far off from what
Their tax.
you normally would have gotten,
Right.
which is 277. And I'm just wondering because everything else seems to be broken out: contributions, donations, fall festival, et cetera, et cetera. That all seems to be broken out. I'm just wondering if that. I'd love to know what you actually did collect.
Right. I can't imagine it being 300 because if you look.
It looks pretty high to me, but I'm sitting there thinking, wow,
Right.
that's not bad.
Right.
You know, if that's true, if that's it.
The 2011 profit and loss is showing a monthly fire tax collection in the from the 1/1 to 12/31 of 272.
Of course, that's 2010 too, so I'm
Right.
back away. 272.
272,001.
So y'all are actually under.
We're actually under in 2000 of what we requested with the 282 and what we actually received with the 272.
That's unusual. You might be the only. You guys might be the only fire department I know of that
Right.
didn't meet your tax base. So I'm interested in that.
And
But I think
was
we
under-
could get those numbers, can't we? I don't have to.
And I was under the understanding that we was one of the highest.
We can go back and
collection
figure out how much
rates
taxes they got in 2000.
district in the county, but
I
by
won't-
looking at that, I can't see.
I won't go any further. I can get those numbers, Josh, right where that's on. Because that's all I'd like to know is just look at that and see.
And I went
I think
ahead.
most people are always above, and I'd be very surprised if at the end of the day, you guys were actually 5,000 low. That's a bit of a concern, and I don't see that in anybody else that I've seen. So I think what we're looking at is just an account issue. I'll find that out.
And that may be an issue with having the 1/1/12/31.
Yeah, I think it may be a fiscal year issue.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And it could be.
Yeah, very much could.
And I done the numbers on $150,000 dollar property would be a $6 increase. On the 200 would be an 8, and on 500 would be a $20 increase from the
And that's-
0.056 to the 0.06.
That's 4/10. 4/10.
Right.
Who have you talked to in the community, Josh? Have you had a community meeting and asked them about this?
Unfortunately, West Macon's not like Cowee that has a lot of community involvement. I'll just be real honest with you. So I don't know. Mill Creek's Homeowners Association isn't too much of a community to really talk to anybody over the past year or so. So I don't know. I don't know what they would think. I'll be honest.
It looks like your increases are basically going to building maintenance, utilities, which are actual expenses. I was looking back what you spent last year, truck maintenance and fuel. Yes, sir. Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions? John, Jimmy, Ron,
We'll find out. Next, actually, it's this November when the service testing on testing.
So in other words, you know
It's not, if the truck died today, it's not essential that we have to replace it tomorrow. But eventually, for inspection purposes and really for investments, it will have to be replaced. It's about, it's actually 12, I think it's an audit like 1272 or something like that. I don't know exactly. Off the top of my head. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Josh, anything else, guys? Anything? Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that very much. last but not least, think about Otto. Otto.
Say that.
No,
Say that.
Otto.
Fixed price, we can do something.
Yeah, we'll argue with you if you do say right now.
I had a lady one time, she said, say about where she lived. I said, you live in Cashers? And she said, no, it was Cashiers. And I said, no, ma'am, it's Cashers. And she said, I hate when you local people mispronounce things. I said, yes, ma'am.
That's a copy of last year's budget, this year's budget, and a balance sheet.
This year's budget, requested budget's on top. Last year's budget is the second page. Gentlemen, is the budget breakdown.
This little add-on to what letter we've actually put in for budget, we kind of listed some of the stuff in here.
Okay.
That's everything that's taken here. If you reference back to the original budget we gave you, there was a sheet that kind of give a breakdown of what we want to increase. First off, we haven't had an increase at all since the 0405 budget. We've always tried to keep it at that .042 without doing an increase. The increase we did in 0405 was a half cent to put on the paid member. It went from 3.7 to 4.2 at that time. We've not had an increase since.
Put on what now is that?
A paid member in 0405.
Okay. Which you still have, so that,
Yes.
that increase is still being used for that. And you hadn't had another increase for any of these other things.
9 years.
It will be.
Right, right,
Yeah.
with this budget. We were wanting to put on another paid member, so we've actually split this shift, have the 2 members there for a portion of the day together, get them there earlier in the morning, later in the evening, while everybody's going back and forth to work. That's where we find our slack time. Everybody's heading to work or getting ready for work. But it cuts down on.
What hours are you found now?
Excuse me?
What's his hours now?
40 hours a week, 8 to 5, 8 to 4. We want, we run one substation.
So you're wanting somebody to come in like at 3 and work.
Yeah, try to at least get them together 3 to 4. I was thinking 5 to 5, maybe let them cross, for part of the period. To get stuff done, that we can't let him do by 7, like loading hose by 7, stuff on drugs. The radio upgrade to the new FCC guidelines, that's gonna be a one-time increase. The numbers on that, $14,580.53. If we don't buy those, we don't have radios. I put something in the packet. It's the county's license that it's actually going to be falling under. We've got to upgrade those radios. FCC has begun the process of narrowing the bandwidth for emergency communications. They started this several years ago with no clear deadline until recently. FCC has talked about the system change before. Departments have spent large sums of money to be ahead. Most of these departments were left with useless equipment because FCC abandoned their plans and changed the plans. So we've held out some of it. Now we're at the deadline, January of 2013, we've got to have an upgrade. Greg done a real good job going through ours and got it right down to the T of what we needed. We quoted, I think the quote is in with our budget. What we quoted for the radio purchase. There should be a copy of that. If you'll go to the budget sheet for this year, on the personnel, we're asking for an increase of $37,000. Gas and heating, $1,000. Electric, we only went up on it $500. Gas and oil, $1,000. Fire equipment and supplies, $4,000. Try to upgrade, like everybody else talking, the gear and the air packs and stuff. We're gonna try on grants though, instead of trying to go out and expense it all ourselves. Rescue equipment, we went up 3,000, or we don't have a set of jaws that cut the new metal. We've got 3 sets of jaws that ought to. We fundraised the monies in the 90s to get 2 sets of them. They just won't cut this new metal in cars. They're building tougher steel.
Which one rescue equipment?
Yeah. And then they're putting aluminum cans over the outside of the plastic. Association dues, we keep running short on that. You've got to stay a member of the associations to be able to get the extra death benefit.
Let me just back up. Is everybody else having that same problem with the jaws of life? I hadn't asked for it, never heard of it. I mean, if it's true for Otto, it'd be true for, I'm sure everybody's got the same jaws of life.
No.
Different sets.
Everybody follows different times.
Different times, different years.
And brand. A lot of the Hearst and stuff done start with whatever else is having come up to. The big one on us is the FCC, radio compliance. We can put off, and I actually talked to Jimmy about this, we can put off the paycheck. I'd gladly cut that from the top as long as I can make sure you get these radio. So that's what's going to really hurt us worse than anything else there. We're in the process of purchasing a piece of property. We were able to refinance, see which line item it is. He highlighted half my stuff, that's all right. The substation payment, the second one from the bottom. By refinancing, we're buying 9-something acres of land for, I think it's $59,000. Sitting right on 441, next to the old Otto School, commercial property. They made us a deal on it. We did it on it.
Is it that piece of property there just passed?
We're old Ottos, but we're old like this shop.
Yeah.
We purchased it, refinanced, the payment will be the same. We're still on, and the payoff will be in the same time frame. We owe about 6 years probably on the substation, and it'll all still be paid off. We're looking at about a 37-year-old building. We built an addition a few years ago to it, put 2 trucks. We're buying new trucks, we've got nowhere to put them. They're making them bigger now. Our doors are small. We actually thought we could park the new ones in it, but yeah, about that much clearance. We're looking down the road to eventually have to build another station. We're trying to think ahead on that. Any questions? I don't know if I
Cash on hand, how much you got?
$27,000. The third line item, 1452, that payment is due right at the start of the new year. We keep that every year. We got to make that 23.
So that'll be gone before you get any tax credit.
We usually, I mean, everybody says you don't get it till later, but you always start, you slowly get a little trickle.
Yeah,
So
right.
we've learned if we can end the year with 20 in that account, we'll get it. You know,
Yeah,
start
okay,
off.
okay.
We slow down at the end of the year and cut corners and try to
keep that.
keep it at that amount.
And the personnel,
We've got one paid man now,
and you added would be, you had put of this amount for 37?
37,000 add the other. Of course, we'll be starting at a lower pay scale.
How many firemen do y'all have?
37 firemen counting our pay, and 5 chiefs. We don't pay our firemen for college. The general body, we've brought this up several times, and they'd rather see us use it, the money now for death reasons rather than pay it.
Looking ahead, Otto, as far as value of property, when you get past Franklin and Highlands, you're next.
And one of the lowest.
Right. And that, of course, that correlates to what the property value. What are you seeing overall? How long have you been there? How many years you got?
28 years, started as a youth.
And
It's
my
changed. It's
concern.
went from running 20 calls a year to we're in the 420 something range.
Well, 291, you've had 291 since July 1 to 5/23, you've had 291.
And we have a rig. We don't have a vendor.
exactly right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We went from fender benders to 2 lane to major fatalities. I think we had 4 or 5 the first year the highway patrol. We run 3 sets of jobs. And same regs, we've had all 3 sets off the road.
And your district comes out for, it goes right,
We go to the Welcome Center, to the Georgia state line. Then you gotta go on through Georgia, into Dillard, hang a right past Galley's Fire Department, and go up, and we cover, inside Georgia, Andy Strap.
Bennett's Creek here.
And then across Mulberry, back to St. Paul. A little bit past Black Mountain Church, as you start up the mountain with West Macon, with the Clark's Chapel there at Riverside. We got 2 stations. We've got the need for 3, but until we get a main station we can live with, we're gonna have to hold off on the one in the Mulberry area. When they did our rating, we dropped recently to a 6. First time we done went to 7. We went back and figured out what we need to do and went to 6. When he run the numbers, he said we need 5 stations. It's just not feasible to do.
5 stations.
5 stations. We wanted one on the test, Mulberry, Punch Bowl, intersection of Cowie Church Road and Cowie Lab. We built the one halfway between 2 of them, knocked 2 out for one. So I did such.
So with 37 firemen and looking ahead down the road a little bit, is our concerns, I mean, it is a real concern on some fire departments that
It gets tough.
what are they gonna be in 5 years? And if you got 5 juniors, maybe you'll have maybe 2 or 3 of them will end up being true firemen, and we don't know that, but.
We've been real lucky with juniors, but like I said, myself, there was several. There wasn't many back when I done. A lot of people wouldn't do it, but all of those have pretty much stayed. And then we had 12 juniors that they're now in their middle 20s. Every one of them come on. That gives, some young blood. I'm getting to be one of the older ones.
I mean, that's what you gotta have.
My poor back there is taking notes, man.
I'm calling people.
Talk about your personnel here, and I have to ask a question, like Jimmy, that no more, you're requesting one more person, which is a 37. If you take that out of it, you don't have a lot of increases here. You got some, but it's not, that's the lion's share of it. And I'm comparing, I know it didn't compare apples to apples exactly, but the number of calls, I think, is very good. I'm looking at West Macon, it's similar valuation, a little bit less. 227 calls, you're at 336. I'm looking at Highland School's valuations off the chart, but I'm looking at the number of calls. You're approaching the number of calls in Highland. Again, 336, there was what, Jimmy, 4? 458. 458. And they've got 2.
And the big thing about having a paid member, and I guess Popcorn sees it too, although a lot of stuff doesn't even go through dispatch either. I mean, they'll call Barry, he goes out to help some load patient, and takes the hospital, it never gets logged through the CAD system.
Ask you to take off the fire chief hat on the fire commissioner hat, fire commission hat. Let me just ask, but I'm just looking at the numbers here. From an outside standpoint, Otto, West Macon, Kelly, all have one fireman now, all have one substation. You're all basically asking for plus or minus $300,000. Are there any other departments out there that are similar in census? Does Clark's Chapel have a substation?
Clark's Chapel has a substation and paid firemen.
I'm gonna ask you.
Those smaller
This for me, I'm not trying to pick on you, people last one, I'm gonna ask you. Clark's Chapel is getting by with $215,000 a year in purchases. Is that probably because of purchase $300, because the trucks are more up to date and
I couldn't answer that question. I don't know.
I know it's not comparing.
I know last year
I'm asking for
they had to do some increase last year.
And they seem to be the exception to the, but if you compare Otto, West Macon, Cowie, you've got a lot of similarities there.
We run 4 engines, 2 tankers, 3 rescue trucks, command boats.
But you guys being busy, you got Franklin.
I don't think they're running 4 engines either. The reason we've got two truck lanes.
Is it fair to say that each department's got their own little, you know, you have 441 north and south. That's your, you know, I think you go to West Macon, you got that mountain you can deal with.
Everybody's got their own little.
You got your own thing that you really, that 441 north and south, I can, of course, the sheriff said, and I guess he could testify.
That's one of the busiest highways.
It is, there's no doubt.
We're probably on more traffic on DOT shit stuff. They actually borrowed some from us the other day.
You cringe when you're responding to a wreck on 441 South.
Yeah, there's no feeling, that's the truth.
We've got to immediately shut it down so we can get some handle on traffic.
As far as call business, you got Franklin, followed by Highlands, followed by Otto, is that right? I just didn't remember calls.
But it's, that just tell you, when you look at Popcorn, the longest straightaway he's got him to answer any call is 100 yards. Right?
Yeah, we're usually over the bank getting them out.
Yeah. It's just a
Where's
different department.
Where's the 100-yard straightaway now?
Main Street.
Bob,
Yeah,
Main
Main Street, Main Street, okay.
You go tank 2,000.
You're on personnel, and that's all I got.
That's all.
We're gonna have 37 for the new bus. The remainder was,
Jimmy, has any other department got the same radio compliance problems that Octo is facing?
They've all got to be compliant by January.
it's just handled that.
I just read it.
I printed this off the SCC side.
The SEC has talked about system changes for foreign departments that started to be a hit. Most of the departments are left with useless equipment. We did not want to spend the money on equipment or may not use it. The deadline was set. The majority of our communication cannot be programmed for the new frequency ranges. So that's the case with most of them.
January 1st, 2013. We got these.
I'm sorry, I can't
Each
understand.
department has, you know, each department has handled that differently. As they've replaced equipment, some people have upgraded along the line. It's a valid point that they just waited for the last to do theirs all at one time.
That's not the radio we own.
Oh, yeah.
We really appreciate it, gentlemen. We appreciate what you do, and I know you're busy, and we appreciate you taking your time and answering some really silly
How many
questions.
total firemen do we have now? 400 and what, Jim? 28? That sound about right?
Yeah, it's over 400. You have the average 30, at least 30.
And you all appreciate it. I mean, that's the best, it's the best deal the county's got.
And you figure what somebody said a while ago, if these
Just give them the
departments were
payroll.
paid, if they were paid, you figure what, somebody that lives in the suburb of Atlanta, well, those are all paid firemen down there. And what you're paid for fire protection here is very minimal, so it's big bang for the buck. So, you know, and please, like Jimmy said, please don't think we're trying to put you through a ringer to talk like this. It's just we try to be as good stewards of these kind of things. We got people we have to answer to.
And we'll have to answer. We approve these. I mean, they'll be, I mean, they're, you know, all you've heard in the campaign look, you know, is cut taxes, cut taxes, cut taxes. Not about provide better service, but cut taxes. So,
When you hear that other thing too, you just hear them together.
yeah.
Anyway, we appreciate you
That's hard
guys
to
very
do,
much.
so.
Like I told Jim, you know, we'll take the paid off, we will be back asking for it next year. We'll give that ourselves.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
But you know, talking about like Dwayne's truck, by the time you buy the truck, you still got to buy all the hoses and everything. You still spend another
Outfits, exactly
$15,000 to $20,000 more on the truck. So our trucks are costing us $200,000.
And the question like you were asking about,
Yeah.
about 20 years life of it. You can't swap the pumps to those.
And you're at 23. You're at 23 on the one. It is 79.
No, that's what's making, I was just answering.
Oh, I remember it was 71.
About 20 years life, that's like 2 years, you know, all the helmets.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah, and you was talking about like trading it in. A lot of them don't want to trade it in. You sell it to, like Ron said, to starting fire department.
Yeah.
You know,
You
get what you get for
That's
it.
exactly right.
Or make a donation to a public.
Yeah, we sold trucks cheap, $3,000.
Yeah, we sold those badly.
Yeah, we sold them out that was hard to we try to
Sorry
help
about
each
that.
other as much as we can.
We donated it to another.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate
Thank you,
you
guys.
guys.
We really
Thank you all.
appreciate it.
Every one of them.
Let's stand in recess for about 10 minutes, please.
Go look.
reconvene. We do have I'd suggest we take this budget amendment under consideration while we got David here. And this is to do the EMS. Jack, you want to address that? Or?
Yeah, and finance director can address that if you have to, but we have actually $115,125 in capital equipment. We need to actually, this is 911 money that's been used to help pay for the upgrade of our 911 communications center at the Barrett building. And in order to spend it, we need to take out a fund balance, put it in capital equipment to cover all the new equipment that's going into that building. And so finance director has asked y'all to consider that along with the emergency services director. Go ahead and make that budget amendment tonight. It doesn't cost any county any more money, just move it from basically one area to another so it can be spent for the equipment we need for the new 911 center.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Beal, second by Commissioner Haven. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. How we come along with that, David?
Doing real good. We're hoping, cross your fingers, August the 7th, we should go live.
August 7th. Good. June, July, so less than 90 days.
They didn't tell me which year, they just said August 7th. We'll go with that. We're trying this year. But in all reality, it should be good.
And I'm still a little hung up on the, and I won't take much time to tell my phone. On the equipment, Octo, on the FCC that they've not complied with. So they just waited longer than everybody else?
They basically just waited on them.
So how long have they had to be compliant? How many years? Months or
We've known the mandate was coming down, I'm gonna say 4 years, somewhere in there. They very well could have just bought new equipment at that time, and then before the mandate came out and were suggesting to move forward, so there was no reason to try to start upgrading. What the other departments have done is, as we upgraded communications equipment from old to new, we just made sure it would meet the new standard.
Right.
I don't know what their situation was 4 years ago. They may have already had new equipment, and it came out just before the mandate.
I believe, since I've been on this board, that's the first time we've heard that.
I tell you, it's news to me, and I that's why I think it's done gradually, because it's news to me in my other hand.
Yeah,
I don't remember anybody making a big deal of it out there on that board either.
And never been compliance was built into the same bill that when the television stations started having to give up their 700 megahertz, and that's all going to change over in 2015. So it's basically what
What's
it
the
is.
worst thing that happen if they change and they're not in compliance? What happens? Can we still communicate with 911?
Well, yeah, what's going to happen is they'll have radios that won't go into a frequency that we're mandated to use, so they won't be able to communicate.
They won't be able to communicate, so they got to do it.
It's got.
They've got to do it.
They got to do it.
They got to do that.
Okay. That answers the question.
No example.
David, thank you.
Thank you, David.
David, thanks.
If you'll regress a little bit, we were talking about general fund expenditures at our last meeting. And if you look under your tab, general fund expenditures, flip to page 11, 10, 11, 11. We've asked Andy to come. We had more questions than we could all answer, Andy. And so understand, we're not questioning the need for that. We're asking for understanding of it. So with that, we'll turn it over to you. We're talking specifically about service contract, equipment, and that kind of thing. So
The main reason, Andy, that's the biggest uptick in the budget. Is your budget.
I understand.
Yes, sir. Be glad to.
The last
Is this
pair-
one page?
This is front and back, one page, but we're gonna start at the back. Last paragraph.
Do you want, Colin, you want one of these? That's it.
Well, that might be it, or the pages. I can give you one.
We're in expenditures, and we're at IT. 11.
It's on page
11.
Under general funds, page 11.
Our primary sand and virtualization installation occurred
about 3 years ago. And at that time, the RFP proposed that all equipment should come with 3 years of hardware support and maintenance. So we bought that up front. And in the 11-12 budget, we scaled that up, added some additional storage that was going to be necessary for virtualizing other servers.
Andy, what we might do, is everybody familiar when we talk about virtualization, what we're actually talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's the first page. And we'll jump back to that. But I sort of wanted to cut to the chase here, and then we'll go back
Come
and
on,
begin
ball coach.
at the
They got it.
beginning. In 12-13, we know that the service contracts for the servers that we have are going to come up, and we have to maintain service on those servers to get the parts. Anytime they go out, we want the parts to be available in a 4-hour window so we can get rapid delivery and get that system back up and running, because we've got critical infrastructure that's running into the servers. Our storage, that's where all our data resides, also has a service contract on it that allows us to get replacement hard drives in a 4-hour turnaround in the event that one of those drives goes out. In the past week, we've had 2 of them go out. Just one drive goes out, the very next day or the very same day, we have a delivery that comes in. The software that allows us to run this virtual environment has 2 components. Both of those components have service contracts on them that also come due this year. And in the budget, I've highlighted the names of those components, and we'll discuss those specific items. But I'd like to start at the front of the page about why virtualization is being used in our environment, and an analogy that helps us consider how these boxes provide services to Macon County government. I do have a screen up here that will give you a different visualization of those machines. And what I'd like to point out is right here we have a primary site which is labeled PR, and it has 3 physical boxes in it. That's these 3 physical boxes right here. And we have a disaster recovery site, and it's got 2 boxes in it. And that's the 2 boxes right there.
In the back of my
I
screen.
think right here, I think you're.
Not plugged in. It's just turned off.
They're all plugged in.
Is the switch on the?
They're running you guys.
Strip, power strip.
Yeah, mine's working.
What about you turn the computer on?
Everybody's off? No.
We didn't turn it on, but.
Good thing I'll be out here.
There's a button on the bottom right yet, but
Andy, can you imagine the challenge when you have to, you don't have to turn them off? And you're talking about virtualization.
We just like to visualize that screen being on.
Should have checked this.
It was working.
That's all right, he can look at
Yeah,
mine.
I'll look at it.
All right.
There's something wrong.
Previously, we had numerous different server platforms. There were 5 or 6 servers in the Department of Social Services, 3 or 4 servers for the Health Department, 3 or 4 servers for the Sheriff's Department, 3 or 4 servers that stored the data for inspections in the outlying offices. But we've consolidated that into a virtual platform where we've got a primary site and a disaster recovery site. Rather than having all those physical boxes and all those service contracts and all the different contacts we had to manage, we're able to operate all those servers under this platform. And you can see these bars indicate the amount of resources that are being used by these particular machines. If I sort these machines by name, I can point out the ones that are groups for DSS or for Sheriff's Office. But every department has a number of servers that serve the resources, whether it's print services, whether it's file storage services, to those departments. Individually, and I'll just pick on this one box, and that's a map of all the resources that are attached to just that one box. But we're going to look at the hosts that are running on that machine. All these different things are running on that one box at any given moment. If I went right now and I pulled the plug out of that box, this system's smart enough to migrate them live without a glitch onto another available box. Now, what I have here in layman's terms is a description that will help us visualize this in a more physical
We're now
way.
visualizing visualization. I just want everybody to know that that's what we're doing. All right. Virtualization. Visualizing virtualization.
Okay, and I'll just have to read this. I haven't memorized any of it, but why is virtualization such a great thing? Most computers don't fully utilize all their resources, their memory, their disk, their network resources. Would you rather have 30 small servers that use less than 20% of their resources, or 7 large computers that use 70% of their resources? Utilization of IT administrative support services is likewise wasted when servicing multiple physical machines and platforms. Our organization uses network services, data, video, IP telephony, security and surveillance, and those have and will increase dramatically. To meet the requirements and industry standards, we virtualized. So what's virtualization like? Imagine virtualization as a school bus, tour, transit bus system with 5 buses. These are our 5 buses right here. Instead of many people driving, cars resulting in a waste of money, vehicle service time, coordination, fuel, and highway expansions, you now have many people being moved around by a few standardized buses. Think of the physical servers as the buses. They're a metal box. A physical server is typically replaced every 5 to 9 years. Now we got these 3 years ago. Think of virtual servers as a person riding on this bus, an entity with a task to complete, processes, and places to be. Here on the screen, you can see that all of these represent physical servers or virtual servers that are operating on that bus. Those are like passengers that are riding on that bus, and they're using the resources of that bus. A person can only ride one bus at a time, but if the bus becomes inoperable, has a flat tire or engine problem, or even a crash, the people can simply get off and transfer to another bus that has unused seats. In virtualization, this transfer happens automatically because of features called high availability, disaster recovery, and redundancy. A person may also hop from one bus to another if it gets too crowded, even while the bus is still moving. This is known as load balancing. Each bus has a seat with a footprint, and passengers, their backpacks, or data. 3 elementary students can share a seat, but most high school students need a little bit more elbow room. Here on the graph, you can see the resources that are used by some of these servers. Some of them use more memory, some of them use more processor power, just depending on the process that server serves the county with. The buses are equipped for passengers with special needs and have dedicated seating and accommodations. Backpacks and briefcases are carried by passengers that hold their work, materials, and data. But for the most part, long-term storage remains at the school or place of business in a system of lockers or cabinets. This is our SAN storage network, and that's where the storage actually occurs. The data doesn't get stored on the servers do the processing of our data. So that's the locker system that houses all that information.
So what we think of as RAM in a personal computer, those 5 are the RAM.
These 5 hold the RAM, and a personal computer usually comes with about 4 gigs of RAM now. Each one of these has 96 gigs of RAM.
And
the storage is like the hard drive.
Okay.
So this is the SAN, the storage area network, and that's what we're coming to. What is a SAN? A storage area network is a high-performance network whose primary purpose is to enable storage devices to communicate with computer systems and with each other. Lockers and file cabinets are also networks of storage. By providing a secure centralized storage a SAN to the virtual environment, the passengers no longer have to lug around their resources, freeing space on the bus to organize their materials and make the most effective use of space. In a virtual environment, the passengers can access their materials from anywhere, even without leaving the bus. This ability also dramatically increases network traffic, so the interconnections between these sites and the clients that are attached to these ports are under a much greater load in a virtualized environment than they were previously, because before, servers were scattered out all over the place, sometimes closer to the client, but not necessarily most organized from an administrative standpoint for us. So this storage area network has increased the load on the network backbone, if you will, and the virtualized, or the virtual network where the servers are housed has increased the load on that network backbone also. Flip side of this page, quote on this was, buses will run on a delay. In snowy or icy conditions, services may be limited on secondary roads. Well, what we have are some secondary roads in our switches. 3 years ago, when we came to the board to request funding to virtualize, after the presentation, Commissioner Davis asked me if there were any other considerations that needed to be made to make this system work. And I spoke up at that time and said that I believed that we needed to replace about $20,000 worth of switches to increase the support of that backbone because we had so much load on it. We didn't perform that upgrade at that time, and now 3 years later, instead of needing to replace about 7 switches, now we're up to 15 switches that need to be replaced. The 15 core switches represent intersections, and they have become majorly congested by all the data that moves back and forth. Because we run a primary site and a disaster recovery site, anything that happens on the primary gets mirrored across to the disaster recovery, so that if this whole site were to burn down today, we can bring those services back up live on the other side. And that happens continuously, day in and day out.
And those switches, how much are those each?
I've got some budget numbers here, but
is that
generally the HP ProCurve switches, and that's in my, I believe, in my non-capital improvements.
Yes. I'm thinking it's 87, 79.
Okay, the ProCurve switches, for 15 of them, it's 43,000. Someone got a
43 what, maybe?
43,000 for the 15 switches.
Okay. Now 2866 piece.
And then with those core switches, 7 of them that ride on the major backbones that provide transport between our main facilities, the Human Services Building, the jail, those switches normally get outfitted with redundant power supplies because power supply is the most common thing to fail in a switch. We want it to be plugged to 2 separate power sources. And we currently have redundant power supplies in place where you see these black boxes. We've deployed the redundant power supplies in the new infrastructure that's going in at 911 for their upgrade. That's pretty much a necessity. And so everywhere you see a black one here, that's where we put in redundant supplies. And these are all the new switches that we've deployed. These are all old switches, and only a few of those have redundant supplies on them. Where are we at here? Okay. So if any one of these buses fails, our 5 buses up here, or if any one of these major intersections go out, we're looking at a drop or a loss in service. Currently, these boxes, these 5, if we tally up the percentage of utilization on them, and I can illustrate that probably by going right here. This screen basically shows the current utilization in memory on those machines. Even with 98 gigs of RAM in those machines, you can see, and we're off hours right now. We're out of work time, and yet we've got between 50 and 61%. When we pulled results during work for peak hours, we're getting about 66%. When we have to maintain one of these servers and take one down, If you take one out of the equation and spread that back out across these machines, you're running into some problems. And these aren't the types of machines that you want to take to the point where they max out. If you max them out, you're going to have a major problem or repercussion from it. So what we're requesting essentially are 2 additional buses, one to go on the PR side and one to go on the DR side. When we added additional RAM to these, we were scaling them up. And we went to the 3 vendors that had bid the original project, and we asked them, without connecting any RFP with it or any money to it, we said, what would your recommendation be to help us prepare this system for the virtualization that we're about to do for 911? And they said, you have scaled up and you need to scale out. You should add an additional server on each side, and you need to do something about this switching infrastructure problem. The switches that we have are operating at 100. The switches we're going to get operate at 1,000, 10 times faster. We don't have to talk about megabits and gigabits. It's 10 times faster.
So back to your RAM, by adding the 2 new units, instead of running 60 to 70%, you'll be running 45 to 50.
We will get it down within a reasonable range because we have additional virtualizations that are going to occur. We plan on virtualizing our GIS, which is 3 servers, and they're heavy hitters. We're going
that higher.
That's right, and we're going to virtualize the 911 center, which is going to have PR and a DR live hot site, and then we're virtualizing our finance servers. And when we do the upgrade for the tax server, it's going to become virtualized into this
so
as
if
well.
you didn't do that, you're already over 100%.
We're already at the point where if we have to take 1 unit down, we've got a problem.
You got, yeah.
And we know we're going to do these other projects, so it's really essential that we have the resources there to bring up those servers. That's for safety. We've already got the storage covered for now, but the server infrastructure and the switching, we've got to have.
And those are how much? And
the servers?
53,285
Those
for servers in the archive.
That's for 2 of them,
Yeah,
right?
that covers both, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Could you refresh my memory? We got $43,000 in non-capital equipment. That's the 15 switches.
Right.
What's the other 44?
Redundant supplies.
Got 7 redundant power supplies, which link to those switches, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
that's, they get one, you gotta get them both.
And the redundance mean you're plugging it in twice.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And most of these are plugged into a battery backup. Well, with a battery backup, in order to replace the batteries in it, you have to shut the power down. And so unless you can provide 2 power sources to that switch, you have no way to service the batteries on the battery backup without bringing the network down. Well, if it's one of these dead center in your network, and you've just broken the 2 segments, those are married together. They talk to one another constantly. Whenever you break that connection and bring them back up, you're talking about maybe a half day's downtime across the board. So you don't want that to happen, and that's why the redundant supplies are necessary on core switches.
Andy, I just got a couple questions on
Yes,
the
sir.
budget, as far as explanation on that, and we're so glad you're here. I mean, for those of us who's not, but thank you for the explanation, it helps. But now, are you one person down from where you was at this time last year in your department?
Well, actually, we're a couple of people down from a couple of years ago. When I believe when Barbara left, I moved up into her position, and we let my position, or we actually moved Simon to network administrator, and then his position went away. And then also with our GIS coordinator, we're now contracting some services for Highland mapping, and so Justin Setzer's the only one that's actually operating in that capacity. And
But you're doing okay with the folks you got?
I don't think so. I'm in a bind. I'm working hard, and they're working hard, and we're putting out a lot of fires, and we've got a lot of stress on us because keeping up with these changes and maintaining this type of system, I really feel like it takes more than 8 people to do. We've got Anita, who's about to retire, and hopefully whenever she does, we're probably going to look at hiring in an additional network support staff member and allowing tax administration to take over more of the functions of mapping the parcel divides and the paperwork that correlates with that. But I think that you could ask anybody in our department, and we are with. And it's an exciting field to be in, you know, but at the same time, when we are down one or two people due to an illness, or, you know, we've got a major project that's going on, it is a real crush for us to try to balance that. And I am attending some classes with the School of Government to become a certified government chief information officer, and in the CGCIO classes, one of the exercises that we performed was a comparison of our IT budgets and IT spending with the general fund for our county, and they gave us a percentage that they felt was a good recommended percentage. We're at 1/3 of that. We're at 1/3 of what the recommendation is, and they told us as CIOs, prospective CIOs, that if we didn't push to get the right kind of budget to protect that infrastructure, that we were doing a disservice to our organizations. And I believe that. And so I don't want to do that kind of disservice to my organization.
But on the total budget, some of these things that you asking for this year, they will not be reoccurring, right?
Well, are we talking about service contracts?
Well, no, I'm basically talking about the buses,
switches.
the buses and the switches and the
Right,
people
right.
dropping off.
The two additional servers, and here towards the end, I think I did mention the lifespan that we expect out of these switches. Physical servers, 5 to 9 years. So we replaced these 3 years ago. Max we're looking out of them is 6 more years in that structure. The sand storage, again, that could be another 5 to 9 years. Based on our history, the switch infrastructure has been replaced twice in 14 years when I first started developing this network. We originally had Nortel switches. We used them about 5 or 6 years. Then we moved to Dell switches. We used them for about 5 or 6 years. And now we're moving to the HP ProCurve switches, and I'd anticipate that we'll probably use them for another 5 or 6 years.
The new tax software, how much of that is upfront and how much of that would be recurring as far as new software for bringing our platform back up?
The tax server itself is a proprietary server made by HP. It runs. It's not a Windows. It's just like a Mac is to a Windows box. It's proprietary and it runs Unix. And the service contracts on maintaining that equipment and the lifespan of that equipment is about to sunset. HP will no longer service that particular unit. So if we migrate that software into another proprietary HP unit, then we're stuck back in the same boat married to that, and we don't have the benefits and features that we have here at virtualization. So the goal for the tax upgrade is to get it migrated from that proprietary Unix platform into a Windows platform so it can be virtualized and experience the benefits, the disaster recovery benefits that we get from this system. The recurring cost that we'll have a one-time upgrade and conversion cost, I believe, of $30,000 from Keystone. And there's some additional support services that are going to be necessary for one of our vendors, Good Pickens. It'll be a $6,000 cost. And then moving forward, we'll have just our normal database licensing renewals for the tax software. Sometime in the next 5 years, we will be looking at either moving from that product to another product. And that's something that the tax administrator, and the IT staff, have been in discussion with the manager about. But at some point, we'll either upgrade that product to a newer Keystone product that will also operate in this environment, or we will have to consider replacing it and going out for RFP for another product entirely.
That'll be a huge change, and I think the tax assessor's office is in agreement that we want to bring this up to this level here at this year to do the revaluation and not do the major upgrade on the computer system until after the 2015 reval. It's going to be expensive, pretty expensive.
Yeah. And the other thing that was a consideration in this is that a lot of times when you look from migrating from a Unix box to whatever new platform we're going to move to, or whatever new software, as soon as they hit Unix, their brain goes cha-ching, we got a platform conversion and and a migration. And so it would be more costly for us to migrate from our existing platform into some new software product than it will be if we could get it migrated into this virtualized Windows environment. It gives us a lot more flexibility to work.
What about firewalls then?
We've got one firewall that we're using, and we do have some internal firewalls and some additional connections. We've got one connection to the North Carolina Telehealth Network, which is dedicated for health traffic, and we've got a firewall in place there that protects that connection. And then we have a single Cisco ASA router that functions as our VPN gateway when you come in from the outside and you have to use credentials, to be able to get in. That's also our firewall, and it provides routing between the two networks also. And one of the things that I've requested in the budget is an additional Cisco ASA to go on the shelf, because it's a best practice to have a pre-configured firewall sitting on the shelf and ready to put in place should this one go down.
That's where if you're coming into this network from outside.
And vice versa.
A password, you have to.
That's
you have to
right.
go through that.
That's the gatekeeper, but it's also our access to the internet. And if we lose that Cisco ASA, then we don't have email, we don't have access to the internet, and we've experienced that briefly in the past couple of years, and just a few hours is enough to cripple a lot of our organizational communication.
So if you're working within the county's network, you're not going through that, but if you're out coming in or in going out.
Actually, there are resources that are mapped internal. This is a 4-port firewall, and so when we make connections to resources over in the social services network or vice versa, or they access printers across, or it goes through that from the social services network when they have to access Munis and other applications that we run on this side, they cross across the firewall when they're doing that.
So that's ever been breached then?
I'd say that it has. We've had a couple of compromises. Most of them are internal, where malware has been downloaded. When you talk about breached, it really has to do with the policies that are set on the machine and how much flexibility you give your end users. Because if you give your end users the ability to download and install applications, then that application could literally invite other things in. We have probably about 10 virus infections or malware infections a month, and they're getting more difficult to remove from machines. A lot of times we're having to take them completely down to scratch and reload them correctly. But so far, the servers that we have internal, the only one that's ever been breached was an outwardly facing web server, and that was, I think, about 12 years ago.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And here I go on about, the goal of our critical systems is elimination of bottlenecks. Right now, the bottlenecks that we have on our networks are each one of these client-attached ports. When we purchase replacement machines from Dell and all the replacement equipment that's going in for 911, those machines are equipped with a network port that operates at 1,000 megabits, a gigabit. All of these switch ports only operate at 100 megabits. So immediately they're throttled down to 1/10 of their potential as soon as they get connected. With the new switches that we're proposing, every one of the ports on the switch will be gigabit. And that allows us to provide a lot greater throughput for our workstations.
I'd say this too, in addition to what Andy does for us and his department does for us in the county, he's also working with us on this technology improvement program the school's working on. So he's already met with Tim Burrell to talk about what they need, when they need it, an implementation plan which will coincide with our funding plan. So I don't know when he has the time to do all this, but he's helped us out a great deal on that.
So the bottom line, the only question I've got, Andy, is do you think the 908 that the administration has recommended, you asked for 932?
Mm-hmm.
And what's been
the things that we removed, and we discussed these together, because we now do have a second internet connection that we could roll to in an emergency with the North Carolina Telehealth Network, And we've got our primary connection that comes through DNet Internet Services. We did have a third internet connection that we had maintained just as a backup gateway. And it was a legacy connection from our previous service provider, and we've opted to discontinue that service with that provider.
That saves some money.
And we also had anticipated that a number of our offices were going to need to upgrade to Office 2010. The majority of the county offices just a year ago were operating on Office 2002. And over the past few months, a lot of our departments have brought themselves up to a modern Office product so that they can communicate. They don't have to use converters, and they can generate the types of documents that we need to communicate with other organizations that we work with. And so we placed in our budget, even though we had recommended in the budget meeting that these departments did fund to purchase licensing from Microsoft Office 2010, we went ahead and put a line item in our budget until we had a chance to review it with Jack and Lori to verify that they had, because no matter what, we needed them to be on the same platform across the board. And it narrows our footprint too, because the less types of platforms that we have to support, the better we can do that. We've generated documents, for example, for the health department. We might help them generate a spreadsheet or a timesheet or some management tool. And when we deploy it, we find out, well, it only works on half of their machines because they've only upgraded. The management team has the newest version, but everybody else doesn't have the software that's needed for this product that we produce. So we've had several false starts and put a lot of effort into things. And if we can get them up to a standard platform where we're all using the same Office products, it's going to definitely be beneficial for the whole organization.
So at the end of the day, the 908 will be.
It will. And again, I really believe, I made a request for an additional staff member, and I understand that, due to the economic conditions, this might not be the time, but I want you to know that we've got a great IT team. We've got a lot of people out here in the county that are working with us and assisting us, liaisons to their departments, and have developed a greater technical skill set, especially specialized to their fields. But that I really feel like we need to get an additional person on staff and bring it back up to 9. If not this year, let's really think about it next year.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for what you do. I'll give you a synopsis. If 5 of them buses crashes were up the creek.
Actually, more than one.
I understand that part.
If one of them crashes, we're in trouble. Andy, thank you.
I know a little bit from the bank, from what we have to go through with that firewall. You talk about firewall.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
It's not gonna have like 1 billion a year. That's what the license is.
Well, what Andy and the IT staff have been trying to do is to help us be able to adapt to the changing environment, the changing technology. If we don't do that, we're going to fall further and further behind. We're going to be in the same situation as our school system is finding themselves in. So we can't wait. I know it's more money in the budget, but it's one of those pay me now or pay me later things. If you don't do it now, it's going to cost a lot more. It's going to create a lot more problems if you don't do it.
It's just like me on the job and doing stuff that comes at our income statement. The record of everything that's going on, and where we're at with that. That's great. It's just, that was that builder man. Of course, it has to run through the same thing. And Andy, you set that up too.
Yeah, build a radio program.
Interesting side note of the conference, we were talking about something, so we were working with some vendors who were describing some school projects similar to what our school is about to do, with the possibility of iPads, cards full of iPads. And I believe it might have been Kevin that had raised the question, or Bobby that raised the question about the amount of bandwidth. Was there going to be a bandwidth problem? And a lot of these schools felt like, no, there's not going to be a bandwidth problem because we've got this agreement where we've got unlimited bandwidth. And so they purchased their 2,000 iPads. That was a good example number. They purchased their 2,000 iPads. They knew they all had all this bandwidth coming in off the fiber, and they brought everything up, and it brought everything down because their wireless infrastructure And we're looking at our wireless infrastructure also, you know, in these rooms, we may connect with 5 or 6 iPads. But when you talk about 40 or 50 iPads being concentrated on one hotspot, it's the capability of the hotspot that has a problem, not the capability of the connection coming
I
in.
wasn't fishing when I asked that question.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
I really was concerned about it because I'm not computer literate, but I have seen what happens to computer performance at Franklin High School when there is a major test going on utilizing maybe 30 computers. And you get them all 30 connected and testing at the same time, and you can forget doing anything on your computer, you're done. And so, you know, that was my concern. So they are addressing that. They are looking at that.
It's definitely a valid concern, and
Okay.
Tim and I have had some discussions about that too, because that's a
I'll
real
continue to ask
consideration.
that question because I accepted their answer, but I'm not convinced that they've solved the problem. So,
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks.
Okay, so,
This right here.
The 908-07.
Betty has.
What's that?
So Andy's been great for me working with him. We've upgraded the Office 10. I've got our department sharing cameras. We're moving into new versions of Unis. We've got, you know, that's just in finance, so sometimes I don't see how they can keep it all going.
it's a.
Very fortunate to have
You do have.
Andy and the staff that we have. They do a terrific job.
I mean, and then we have one of the best. I mean, you go to these other counties, and we've talked about the other counties. When you go to the tax department, I look at the maps of Macon County. When you visit another county, just give it the world. You want to see how far advanced we are. This is great. And that's great for the public, and it's used every day.
Okay. Commissioner Tate, he has a meeting in Highlands at 7, so we need to get him out of here by probably 6:25. He needs to get to his car, not speed.
Unless you got behind who I was coming back off the mountain yesterday, you won't get there till 20 out of 8.
So we've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, you want to get one?
We can do one of two things, and I'd entertain either idea. We can move on, we got to animal control and going through the expenditures, or we can visit the, Commissioner Tate, I'll let you make that call. We can visit the fire departments now, or we can sleep on that and take it up at our next meeting, so.
It's my call, I said it's continuing.
Okay.
So we want to go
Let's
to
move animal control.
Right, page 27.
Gentlemen, 27. Page 27, again, the tab is general fund expenditures. And if you flip to page 27, that's where we left off Monday night. It's the page after emergency services management.
And looking at his budget, you can see he's only increased about 5,000. A little chunk of that's in non-capital equipment. He was going to, what was he doing, Jack? Putting a drain in,
22.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I
the
can
cat.
find the notes on here.
Yeah. Putting a drain in. Trying to remember.
Oh, every item there was flat, with the exception of that item was
Yeah.
$2,200. And there was a little bit.
And we're
The
pleased to
storage
see that,
building.
because when we initiated the animal control, we were really afraid, Lori, that every year you'd see huge jumps. Because so.
Yeah, that
That's good.
increase is for the drain system in the cat rooms and storage building to store his crates and animal traps and cages, things like that he's currently storing out in the weather. He needs a building to store those. So that's what that increase is.
We only have 4 full-time employees. They're right here, 4 full-time employees in that department, and they operate virtually 7 days a week when they have to. And we have some volunteers who help out sometimes, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to cost when the county elected to go ahead and create the department, build the building, which we did about 3 years ago now. But I have to say I'm very pleased with the personnel. We have the same people that we hired to start off with. They do a good job on all the budget, and you can't please everyone out there that has a pet 100% of the
Okay, you okay with that? Yeah. Let's move on to airport. That's
That's just our annual contribution, same amount.
Contribution,
Right.
there's no change there. The next is, what is that?
I love the planning budget.
That's great.
Planning budget, that's good.
It's not planning.
Planning budget was merged into permitting and planning.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've already done it. All right, next, occupancy tax, there's your,
Those numbers are just based on, I looked at what we've actually collected this year, projected how we're gonna end the year, and plug that for next year.
And when the year's over, we'll take a look and see what our actual expenditures are on the county side, because we've had the different percentages of, that we use for county administrative costs. 15% where it started out, down to
We're at 8.
5%, now it's about 8%. We take a look at that each year to see. It's not a profit center for the county, we just try to recoup what it actually costs us to handle the
you know, the next time is economic development, and the thing that jumps out there is that's a decrease of about $10,000, which represents about 10%. That's better than 10% decrease.
Yeah, this was pretty unanimous.
I did, Mr. Chairman, didn't have a chance to talk to Mr. Jenkins again about this after I gave him a copy of what we had recommended. And he feels like we probably may be a little bit short on one of these line items in here, probably marketing budget. And so we may look at, take a look at how much more we need on that. It wouldn't be much, but it wouldn't be the $10,000, but it'd be part of that if we have to put it back in there. I'd like to come up with a figure on that and talk to Tommy again and ask y'all to consider making a slight adjustment to that to make sure that we can get through, cover all the things the EDC needs to do next year. But it's not a great increase, but we need to make sure we have nothing there for marketing. And if we can't do it, if something comes up during the year, we fall a little bit short. Unfortunately, still would have a little tendency to fall back on it if it's necessary.
And pointing out the obvious, going from having a county employee to making this a contract type thing, you know, the items with FICA and hospitalization, life insurance, retirement, so on and so forth, have gone to zero. And,
The other thing that's gone through that may be misleading depending upon where we decide to land it in the budget is county school. If we decide if that's going to be a line item in this budget, then that will need to be discussed.
We'll have to find a place to put that in. So
We just need to talk amongst ourselves to figure out where the best place.
we've got some rough numbers on that. We haven't got it put together yet. We'll probably bring that back and discuss it before next year.
And I'm not saying this is where it needs to go, Mr. Manager. I'm just saying, keep it in mind. That's your $10,000 right there. If you look at it, that number's not really going to go to zero. So may not appear in this budget.
And then very little in this budget. We had a little bit of money that was appropriated y'all for the acquisition of school and doing the due diligence on that. So those actually, those front costs will go with it. There'll be other continuing costs we'll have to consider. Exactly right.
And just a little report, Mr. Chairman, and of course, Commissioner taking the picture. Last night at EDC meeting, you could see, those that was in present and some other guests that, not only what they're doing, what Old Virginia's doing for our county and our community, but I think you could see a level of professionalism, Jimmy, in the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
I really do, and it's, and I think it'll bear fruit. It will bear fruit.
Very good. Anything else, gentlemen, on EDC?
You heard Jimmy say this was a drop before the board.
Yeah, they approved. And Jackie changes that, we'll do those.
Okay.
Transit services, and I'm on her advisory board. I tell you, just as far as way of looking at that, there's two areas that's divided into administration and operating. And you see both those have dropped. Any questions specifically?
Just keep in mind, the patrol transfer program in the county is pretty good bang for the buck, for what little money the county puts in, we get a lot
It is.
back in your.
Simply because you do have a usage fee that comes back to the revenue side. It's not all outgo, and I'll have to say Kim does a good job with management over there. I'm pretty impressed. I've been over there several times, met with them, and they do a good job.
She applies for grant.
A lot of grants.
You look at who we transfer every day. I mean, every day.
Absolutely.
And just to play devil's advocate here, I've had people say to me, well, we need to do away with the transit system. Neighbors ought to take neighbors to the hospital. That's fine. You line up at the end of the road and take the neighbor every time they have to go to the hospital, every time. And so you have to remember, in this, she transports people to Haywood Hospital to Ashland.
Charlotte,
At the times when they need.
Charlotte for Medicaid.
Which are very not cost effective trips.
So they said, just pick up, and I'll say his name out here, just pick up a phone call Wayne Harris. If you ever get any complaints, Wayne Harris has to go to dialysis 4 times a week. And Wayne's in wheelchair. And just pick up the phone and ask him, if Macon Transit is worth it.
And something like this,
That's all you gotta do, talk to folks.
you have such a small amount of tax money involved, because again, you do have the user fees that help defray the cost. It doesn't pay for all of it, we all understand.
Good user fees, but people mind share when it comes to a grant.
It doesn't.
Sure.
So as far as I'm concerned, like I say, I'm on her board, and I think that's a thumbs up right there. All right. Area transit, let's see, nothing there, that was vehicle purchase last year, right?
Right, the arrow money's gone. And the page 35 is a newer piece of her budget, that's also part of transit. Like in this current year, she came to the board and we amended her budget and moved it out of some of the other two and into this one. So that's just a continuation of her budget for next year.
Page 36, if we're all good, is soil conservation. What did you?
Chairman, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Breedlove, who runs this program for us, y'all familiar with, Mr. Doug Johnson's work over there. We had a third person that worked over there as secretary for a number of years. She retired, and we hit the budget crunch a couple of years ago. We did fill that position, and we're using temporary part-time. We're actually using volunteers or whatever. We're using a senior aide who works about 16 hours a week to cover some of the phone calls and so forth. I'd like to revisit that if we can, figure out some way within the budget without additional money to come up with about at least another 20-hour-a-week clerical support person, because they have to do more than just answer the phone. When we have Doug and Mike out in the field doing all the work, they don't get a chance to do all the stuff that needs to be done in the office. So if we come up with a way to do that before we finish the budget process, I'd like to consider that.
I would concur.
As liaison to that department, I would certainly concur, and while and it sort of ties into the next department, which I'm not liaison to, is the corporate extension. If you don't know, the corporate extension has suffered another cut. They continue to cut. Alan Durden does a wonderful job. If you're not familiar with the corporate extension, what they do every day with 2 ladies up there, everything from the community garden, they have some kind of 4-H class every night for the youth. It's sort of amazing what they accomplish, and you got to remember back to the soil conservation, they do bring in some money. They do, but they need some help, and this property extension, more and more people are going back to the gardens and the cannon, and their workload is just increasing over the past 2 or 4 years. It's just really zoomed. So
The big problem there has been on the state funding level. The county, if y'all are not familiar with it, the county pays a percentage of the cost of operating the extension service, 40 to 50% of salaries and so forth. What has happened in the past is when there's a vacancy occurred in one particular position over there, not just here in all the counties, the state has had a tendency to freeze that position, and then when the budget rolls around, they eliminate it. And so we have a position now that's been, that the person transferred to another office, retired, whatever, and so the state's got that position frozen. What we've been able to do is take what the county's portion of the matching salary is and get some part-time people to help cover that. If you get a chance, talk to Dr. Porter, anybody else with NC State and the state government, they need to continue to fund at least a minimum level of the quality extension services. The county will put up their part, and we don't have to come up with any more money. The state will just come up with their portion. We can keep it going. We're fortunate that we're able to have one director just for Macon and not split between more than one county right now. That's good. We got some dirt over there doing a great job. But if you get a chance to put a plug in for extension service for the state, they can't do it. They're forbidden from lobbying or anything like that for the state funds. But it doesn't mean the county can't do that. So if you get a chance to get the plug to have the state break that loose and fund that the way it ought to be funded. In rural counties, it's much more important than it is in metropolitan areas.
And for those who don't know, Macon County State is a partner of Department of Extension and is a program extension. The new chancellor of Macon County State is revamping what they're doing, and that's a lot of concern, especially in the rural counties. The new chancellor, yeah. And the new chancellor is looking at a lot of things, and it just benefits a lot of the folks in Macon County. So we're watching that too.
Gentlemen, if you would, draw a line across your page there, we'll call it right there, but
Yeah.
that's a couple of reasons.
Go
Next-
mode.
Next item is the health department, and that's a good place to stop. And if you would, get your calendar.
One quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
Extension. Who do we close that pay through?
None of them fully paid by the county.
No. The only one that's fully paid with the county is the ones that are part-time. And all the rest of them are, we have a lock-in send-in agreement with the state where once the budget is approved, the county pays this portion and the state pays this portion. And all the money that goes with their salaries actually comes from the state, and the state bills us our portion of their salary.
Gentlemen,
That's been more than that.
you got, this is the 23rd, tomorrow, I think, is out. We got a couple of things going tomorrow night. As far as meetings, I don't think over the weekend's good. Ronnie's gonna be gone Monday, we're legislative.
Well, that's Memorial Day anyway. So.
Well, yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the 31st is next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Any heartburn about that night?
I gotta come back at 9.
What time are
You
you
gonna come back at 9?
31st, we'll actually.
30th?
We'll be there the evening of the 30th and the evening of the 29th and the 30th, and we'll be coming back on the morning of the 31st.
So we should, before we did it, give everybody a little time to do something else. You wanna do it evening, like 6 o'clock?
If you say 6 o'clock, we should be able to be back by then.
Everybody okay with that? Ron, Jim?
Ronnie, King, you got another meeting?
No, not as I know of, not on my little.
And cut. Jim?
Say 6 o'clock on the 31st.
All right, we're gonna recess this meeting.
With your concurrence, I will invite the health director.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Be there on the
please,
31st.
We'll need him, that's the next thing we're taking out. So
Anybody else we need are we gonna try to polish her off one more time?
I think we can. Because
I think we can,
We're in
too.
short roads right now, so, I can't think of anybody else that we need. I've looked through the rest.
Probably the sheriff.
I think you'll get through it on the 31st, and then you're gonna have to have one more to get down to nuts and bolts about add subtraction and other stuff. But I think the 31st or more and more, we ought to be.
Why don't we just set the 31st, and if we need to, we'll just do a
See, that's where we
continuation.
get.
Yeah, because you gotta realize the following Tuesday, June 5th is when you're having a public hearing. So I would imagine you'd want to have it pretty much finalized by public hearing night, but I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
that is actually
That's
the
the
following
Tuesday after
Tuesday.
the 31st,
Correct.
so.
So we have to come back on Saturday the 2nd.
if we don't get done, but everybody can commit, we'll come in here at 6.
You can actually meet again after the public hearing as far as that goes. You don't have to have the budget adopted. We'd like to have it adopted as soon as the board feels comfortable doing that. So we can go ahead and start the process of closing out this year, setting up next year.
Yeah.
Next year, getting the taxes and all that stuff lined up. But, we have in the past had meetings or sessions even following the public hearing. If you need to do that, you can still do that. But we had asked in the budget calendar to try to schedule a date of adoption of what the.
12.
12th.
Public hearing the fifth, and option.
I have no problem philosophically, because to me, our meetings and the public hearing are all part of the process of approval, so we don't have to have it done by the end of in my mind. But we'll recess until the 31st of May, that's Thursday, May 31st, 6 o'clock PM, 5 West Main Street,
West Main
Franklin,
Street,
North Carolina.
Board.
What time is that here, 6 o'clock?
That will be the following Tuesday at 6. So, move to recess, we'll, I guess I just declare recess.
Well, actually, you'll meet here if there's more than.
Do you see any reason for closed
You just
session, we can
recess.
take? Or we all have got time?
I don't mind if you want to.
Well, I don't think we do. I think we do.
Do we have a motion to recess?
So,
Motion second by Bill Cuthbert, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
Just
Stand.
before everyone leaves, I want to make sure we get our schedule together as far as, meeting with our folks in Raleigh on the 29th and the 30th. We got a minute.